But I don't regret doing what I did, because it was very rewarding, very inspiring, and it was what I wanted to do at the moment. And I think that's important, to do what you feel like at the moment. And I understand them, but I have to listen to myself as well.
What is up, guys? My name is Sam Matla. This is the EDM Prodcast, a show where I talk to artists, producers, people in the industry, but mostly producers, let's be honest. Today's episode is episode 35, and it's with a very special producer, a Swedish trance legend. His name is Bjorn Akesson. He has been around for quite a while. One of his early releases was in 2004. Obviously, the year is 2016 now. So that's a good 12 years. So he's been around for a while, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to get him on. The other reason, of course, is because his music is phenomenal. So if you haven't heard of him or heard his music, make sure you do that after this episode, or before, if you've got the time. In this episode, we talk about a bunch of things, including how Bjorn got into music production, his latest remix of Come Get Some by Indecent Noise, how to build energy in a track, and also whether it's good for new producers to focus on remixes or originals, or both at the same time. So make sure you listen to the end for the answer to that question. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the interview. Here is Bjorn Akesson. This episode is brought to you by EDM Foundations. EDM Foundations is my course for new producers, those who've been producing for under 12 months, or even those who've just started. The whole idea of the EDM Foundations course is that you learn the fundamentals of music production by actually doing, and not just learning the theoretical stuff. The course consists of over 12 hours worth of streamable video, where I walk you through the creation of 3 songs and give you advice and tips for working on your own original alongside them. We've had over 500 people sign up for this course. Many of them have had great results. If you want to learn more about the course, head over to edmfoundations.com. Welcome back to the EDM Prodcast. I'm Sam Matla, and today I'm joined by Bjorn Akesson. Did I pronounce that right?
Kind of, yeah. You can pronounce it in a bit of different ways, but that's fine.
Right, gotcha. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks. How about yourself?
Not too bad, not too bad. Hey, thanks for coming on. I know it's late over there. Really appreciate it.
No problem. It's always nice to talk about production. So
yeah, absolutely. Now, you've been doing this for quite a while. I think I was looking at your discography, and one of the first releases was in 2004, I believe, or was it earlier?
Yeah, 2004.
So how did you get into music in the first place? And from that point, how have you got to where you are today?
Well, basically, when I was in elementary school, I was hanging out with some new friends that listened to trance music, and I've never heard it before, so it was very new and exciting to me. I've been listening to similar music before, but not really trance. So that got me very interested. And at the same time that they introduced this music for me, they also had like a software where you can make music. And I was very into computers and technology. About then, I was doing a lot of programming. So this whole idea about making your music with just a software was like very interesting. So I wanted to get started with that right away. So we made music together, and I made my own music. They made their own, and things kind of continued from that. And we had like a local youth club where you can go after school, and they had some basic DJ equipment. So we started like DJing at the same time as well. And then I just kept going, and my friends were stopping with making music. You know, they stopped with that software, and I kept going, and I was getting more advanced stuff to make music with. So I kept on, and they left, and from that on, I kind of just wanted to get better and better, and I started to see the real trance scene with the vinyl releases and CD compilations, and I wanted to be a part of that. So I had to work hard to get my quality better and make more interesting tracks. So I made a lot of music to kind of get further in, and so I guess my hard work is how I came to where I am today.
Right, for sure. What kept you going? Because your friends were kind of giving up on it, and you said that you kept going. Was it just the love for music, or was it something else?
No, it was just a love for music. I loved making music, so I just kept on going.
I like that you mentioned hard work, because I think some producers don't talk about that enough. It's really what it takes.
Yeah, because these days you have all these tools that kind of make it more easy. You have all these massive sounds that you didn't have a long time ago. So you don't really know how much work you need to put in to make a good track. Because back in the day where you didn't even have VSTs, and if there was a VST, they were really bad. So you had to really make interesting music. You had to find a way to make like a really good melody or something that would make the track interesting. And today you have all these massive sounds, so you can just kind of create something quickly, and you don't learn how to make the track as interesting.
Yeah, do you think there are downsides to the fact that you can download these days loops, construction kits? I think presets are fine, but all this stuff, and you can kind of just chuck it in and have a track. I think one downside to that is that there's just a lot of generic music coming up.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's one of the reasons that you don't have kind of the same magic. Well, you have it, but it's more rare than it used to be, because you have these construction kits where you don't need to put as much work as you needed to before. Right,
exactly. Do you remember what the software was that you all started on?
Yeah, it was Sony Acid. It's I still use it today, actually, to make my podcast, but it's a production software as well, and I was using a program called EJ also.
Yes, yeah.
They were kind of similar, because all the music we made was just kind of loops and sequences, and so it wasn't really producing or composing. It was kind of putting these pieces together, and then everyone was using the same loops, and then I came up with the idea to download samples from the internet and use that to make things more interesting and different. Yeah, that's what we used back then.
And what are you using nowadays?
Now I use Cubase, but before that I was using the early version of FL Studio, which was only called Fruity Loops.
Yeah.
So that was a step from Sony Acid to Cubase, because with Fruity Loops you had to compose and you have to do some more mixing and stuff like that. So I think from Fruity Loops was where I started to get into the real production, so to say.
Right. And what made you switch from Fruity Loops or FL Studio to Cubase?
I had a friend that was working with Cubase, and I think it was when I got my first hardware synthesizer. I don't think you could record with Fruity Loops, or the MIDI sequencing there wasn't good. So I think I actually recorded in Cubase, and then I imported it into FL Studio. But eventually I just kind of switched over to Cubase because it seemed more professional and seemed a better program to know.
Yeah, I've heard good things about it. It's not that common compared to Logic or Ableton Live or FL Studio. But the people who I've talked to who do use it say it's extremely powerful. Like, it's used for film production and composition as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of big artists that use it, but I think it's really good for like recording live instruments, like band stuff.
You're doing all this hard work, getting well into trance music. Was there a point where you looked at what you were doing and saw massive potential in it, like that you were going to have a future in music?
I guess I always kind of felt that I had a potential. But the first music I put out was just horrible. It wasn't even music; it was just kind of noise, and it was more like progressive. But then my ideas got better, and my friends kept saying, like, every time I sent them a sample, they would say, "Oh, you're getting much better and better for each thing you send." So I noticed that things were getting better. Things weren't going that fast, but they were going the right direction. So that's kind of what I was listening to. And actually, the first release I had was a track that I did with a friend. It was called Havana with a guy called Dreas. And at that point, my production skills wasn't good enough, but my ID skills were good enough. So combining his skills of producing and understanding like modern production and what it takes to have a release with my ideas, that was like a winning concept.
Yeah, because that's quite a well-known track, isn't it?
Yeah, it had a lot of success.
Mm-hmm. What advice would you give to producers who are in that position? Like they're not quite making good music yet, but they know the ideas are there. What advice would you give to them?
I think the best thing to do is just make a lot of tracks and don't focus on having a release. I think so many people are focused on the end goal. Like they want to do the tours and they want to have the State of Trance plays and Future Sound of Egypt plays and so on. But you need to work hard to get there. And in order to get there, you need to make a lot of music to learn new things, discover new things, and get better. So I would suggest like doing a lot of tracks, put them out online, get feedback, proper feedback. And that's also important to get proper feedback because so many people say, "Oh, wow, nice track, amazing," and so on.
Yeah.
When in fact isn't amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
that's what your friends will say because they don't want to be mean. So how would you go? Because I get this question all the time. I get a lot of people asking me for feedback, and unfortunately, I can't give feedback to everyone. But I also get people asking me how they can get good feedback. Because if you just upload your track to SoundCloud and you don't do anything else, you probably won't get good feedback. So what do you think is a good way to go about getting feedback from people? Solid feedback that actually helps.
I think finding a friend or a producer that's honest and that has success in the scene, that knows what he or she is talking about. I think that's the best way. That's the way I did it. But you can also use forums, but you need to be careful because some people in the forums don't really know what they're talking about, but some do. So you got to be able to kind of see which feedback is good and what is bad. But definitely have some, like 1 or 2 or 3 people that would like to help you, that you can send your music to.
Yeah, it's great advice. You've just put out a remix of a song called Come Get Some by Indecent Noise, which is phenomenal, by the way. The drop at 3 minutes, 20 seconds just blew me away. Been listening to that on repeat. How did that remix come about, and what did the production process look like?
Well, actually, it was I was on Twitter and I heard the track played on a State of Trance, and I sent a tweet like, "This is a great track." And Indecent Noise replied and say, "Well, you should remix it." and the official State of Trance account said like, "Yeah, you should do it." So I was like, "Well,
awesome.
It's not my regular style, but I'll give it a go because it will be a fun and interesting project." And it was a bit hard, actually. I kind of knew very early on what I wanted to do with it and how it would end up sounding, but the production process was kind of hard. There was a lot of roadblocks that I hit, but I eventually solved them. But it was interesting. I think I learned a lot by doing the remix, and that's another good tip for producers, to remix and try new things that are not your style, because you will learn a lot, and it's very inspiring.
Absolutely. What kind of roadblocks did you encounter?
Well, first of all, the kind of lead pluck thing in the track was an audio sample, so I had to find ways to manipulate the audio sample, because usually I have it in a synth where you can turn knobs, LFO, and stuff like that to make the sound you want. But with an audio sample, you can't do that. You have to find other ways to do it. So I found a few plugins. I don't really remember exactly which, but I had to find new ways to work to make it happen. And there was some artifacts that I had to solve and take care of as well. I think the plug was hitting strangely against the kick in a way that it was just sound like the kick was uneven. I'm not sure exactly why. So what I did was use the LFO tool. You can use volume shaper as well. And I just made like a little space right in the beginning of the kick. So the beginning of the kick, like the transient, the attack, was completely free from the plug. And that kind of solved the problem. It cleared it up.
Right, gotcha. You mentioned that the song wasn't, like, it was kind of a different style for you, but your sound has changed a little bit over the years, because I remember, like, I was listening to your old material, and then it must have been some stuff around 2012, which was much more aggressive. And then one track of yours is in my Spotify playlist called Slam, which is completely different altogether. Is that because I know what the trance scene is like, especially the uplifting trance community? They are not that kind. Did you receive a little bit of a few complaints for doing that?
Yeah, I received a lot actually, and some were very harsh. People can be very rude and mean. But I don't regret doing what I did, because it was very rewarding, very inspiring, and it was what I wanted to do at the moment. And I think that's important, to do what you feel like at the moment. And a lot of people say, well, you're just doing this for the money, and you're doing this because this is popular right now. And no, I didn't. I mean, I'm not driving a Ferrari. I mean, I didn't get rich on that. I did what I felt was good and inspiring. And the tracks did pretty well, I think, but there was a lot of people that didn't like it, and I understand them. But no, I have to listen to myself as well.
How do you deal with those kind of comments? Because I know some people it doesn't affect them at all, and for other people it really affects them. They take it to heart, and they get really down. How do you personally deal with them?
I think you just have to get used to it. I mean, sometimes I take it to heart and I take it too personal, which is not good. But you have to see the overall feedback, because it's easy to focus on those few negative comments, especially in the forums where they're like trashing anyone, and they can say anything, and they just talk a lot of negative stuff. But I think you have to realize that you can't please everyone. It's better to please yourself first. Well, that sounded kind of strange. But yeah, you have to listen to yourself and do what feels right for you. And if you do your best and what you believe in, then you can't change that. I mean, you did your best and you listen to yourself. What more can you do? You can't do anything else. Yeah,
no, that's fantastic advice. Why do you think the trance scene specifically is like that? Like, I feel like there's a lot of elitism in the scene, as if you don't make 138 beats per minute uplifting trance, you're not a true trance artist. Why do you think people act like that?
Well, I think maybe they're very passionate and they know exactly what they like, and they don't like change, maybe. But I think I've seen it in other genres as well. I'm not sure exactly how trance it is, but I know exactly what you mean. And I know some people are more open, and some people are very close-minded, and they just like one type of sound, and they refuse to like anything else. I mean, if you put something different in there, they can say, well, that snare at 2 minutes and 50 seconds is ruining the whole track. I mean...
Yeah, I've seen those kind of comments. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it definitely exists in other genres as well. it's not limited to trance. I think I just said
Yeah.
trance because that's the community I'm in, and so I say it all the time. One thing about all your productions, and a lot of people talk about this, your fans, people that listen to your music, all your songs have a ton of energy, and this is something that I know a lot of producers struggle with. They struggle to either build energy or even create energy in their music in the first place. What do you think? What tips would you give to those producers? Or if I can rephrase the question, what do you think contributes to energy in a song?
I think it's the overall sound, how everything comes together. I mean, sometimes just the volume of the kick can make a big difference in how much energy the track has. But then it's about combining the right sounds and combining the right sounds in the right key. Like some kick drums only works with some keys. So you gotta kind of just try different things, and you need to replace what's not working and just kind of keep trying. Because that's what I did. When my tracks lacks energy, usually just add or remove and just keep working and working until the energy is there, pretty much. But yeah, you have another good tip is use reference tracks. That's really important. And if you use reference tracks, you can see what kicks works good with what bass lines, and that's the foundation of energy in the track. And then you can see what else they do, what else kind of sounds and rhythms that is contributing to the drive and energy.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So just keep pushing through. How long? Because a lot of your tracks are quite complex. I think, a classic of yours, Painting Pyramids. Yeah. First time I heard that, I was like, wow, this must have taken a long time to make.
Yeah, it did.
How long, on average, does it take for you to finish a track?
I think a lot of tracks takes 4, 5, 6 months, but
wow,
that's me being maybe a bit lazy, because that's a bit too long. I mean, some tracks need it maybe, but sometimes it takes too long. But I think with Painting Pyramids, maybe 2 or 3 months, something like that.
Wow. Yeah. You've done a ton of remixes along with the originals. Yeah. Do you find when you're working on a remix that the production process is a little bit different?
Yeah, I think it is, because whenever I hear a track that I'm gonna remix, I kind of know right away what I want to do with it. Then you have to take into account what elements there are, what key the track is, and you have to kind of build it around that, and you have to see what elements, how to make the structure. And because I believe that you should make a remix very personal, because so many remixes sounds like a rework or a straight copy of the original. So you need to find a way to make it sound like a remix, but also make it sound like your own track. So definitely, it's different.
Yeah, for sure. Do you, like, I know when I work on a remix, I'll only listen to the original track once, because if I listen to it too often, I'll just make it too similar. Do you have any tricks like that you use when remixing?
I do exactly that trick, actually, because you shouldn't be too inspired of the original. But it's good to check the original again in the final process, because usually there's might be a sample or something that you missed that would be cool to put in. Other than that, I think it's very important to kind of know the basic idea and concept of your remix, how it should sound before you start, because, well, you can experiment too, but kind of know what direction you want, so you don't work a lot and then realize that, well, this is not working, or doesn't sound like my remix.
Right, exactly. I've had a few questions, I think via email, from new producers, and they ask, should I work on, I'm a new producer, should I focus on remixes or originals or both? What are your thoughts on that?
I think both. Remixing a track, you can see how they work, why they work, how they're built, and you can learn a lot from that. But then it's also important to experiment yourself without any boundaries or limits, like working on original material. Just use your inspiration, just create. So it's important to both learn and to do. I think that's crucial.
Mm-hmm. Talking about originals, when you sit down to start a new project, how do you start it? Like, does it change every time? Do you have a certain workflow that you use? How does that look?
Usually I start with the main theme, the main melody, because I want that melody to be good enough to lift the whole track. That should be like the star of the track. And if after you make the main theme, it's easier to build a track, but sometimes I start from a beat or something like that. So it can differ, but I think my favorite way to start is doing the main theme first. That's definitely a winner if you come up with something good.
Right, for sure. I know a lot of people put that off and then they get stuck in the project because they've worked on the easy stuff first and then they have to come up with the melody and they can't. And I think that's great advice.
Yeah.
A lot of trance producers especially struggle with bass lines, the multi-layered uplifting trance bass lines.
Yeah.
What are some tips or tricks that you would give for, bass layering or programming in that style?
Well, I think it's different to try different layers. I think some of my early work had like maybe 6 or 7 bass layers. I think maybe that's a bit too much because I don't think you can hear all of the layers, but definitely try different layers and combining different rhythms. Just don't put one rolling bass line and put like 5 layers on that, because that's not gonna work. So maybe you can try offbeat sub bass line and a rolling mid bass line, and then you can have like a single bass hit on top of that to make it more interesting. But be careful to not put too many different rhythms, so it kind of sounds messy and hard to follow, because a proper rhythm contributes to the track as well.
Yeah, I suppose if you add too many rhythms, you have no rhythm.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you encounter creative block or writer's block, and if so, how do you overcome it?
Yeah, I encounter it a lot. I actually had a kind of bad year where I had a lot of creative block, where everything I did didn't sound good enough and I wasn't very inspired. I think the best way to handle it is to realize that it's just temporary and it can break anytime. And the more you work, the bigger chance is it for the roadblock to come down. So it's important not to give up and just kind of try to relax, maybe take a few days off and just go in the studio and have fun, experiment. Don't make it too serious, because if you just sit down and say, okay, now I'm going to make a track, and then it's easy to kind of get pressured and easily stuck. So a good way is just play around, have fun, maybe buy a new plugin, buy some new sound banks, just go through some sample libraries, some new presets, and see where it can get from that.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I know personally, and for a lot of other artists, the best songs for me have come out of those sessions where I've just sat down and said, you know what, I'm not going to even think about making a song. I'm just going to chuck down a few things, maybe try out a different genre, and something good always comes from that. I think another thing that I'm a huge fan of is process over product. And I think that a lot of producers kind of get tunnel vision, and they feel like they have to make a track by the end of the week, or they have to get a release on Armada, they have to get DJ support for this, and that can be pretty bad for the creative process because there's so much pressure involved.
Yeah.
What is the biggest challenge you've faced so far in your journey as an artist? Because it's been quite a while.
I think it's always difficult to be consistent, but be consistent with good material, because I don't want to disappoint people, and I hate to see the comment, well, it sounds okay, but your previous work was much better, or something like that. That's not a fun read, but I think being consistent has always been my main issue, because I always want to deliver something special. I want to make a hit every time, and I think that's a good way to see it, but it's also bad because it creates pressure, and it makes things not really happen. It gets stuck, and there's too much pressure for next release. I mean, is it good enough? Or people going to be blown away by it? So I think that's the most difficult thing that I experience.
Yeah, I imagine that's tough. How do you deal with that? Do you just have to, tell yourself that it's stupid to think that, or how do you get rid of the pressure?
Well, I think I just make music until I have something that I feel is good. It doesn't need to be like the best trance track ever. It doesn't need to be like interesting and something that I feel is good. But well, it's hard sometimes. But I think that's
of
that's
course.
what I do.
Okay, a few more questions and then we'll wrap this up. What's your studio look like? What's in your studio?
It's a pretty basic setup. I have my studio PC, of course, and then I have a couple of KRK VXT6 monitors, and they're on ESO acoustics stand, because the stand kind of handles the vibration from the bass, so they improve the sound a bit. And then I have a Steinberg URM28 audio interface. And that's a really nice one because it has inputs for microphones. You can connect 3 setups of monitors to it. And you have like a volume button as well on 2 headphones. So it kind of like a mini audio center as well. And then I just got a pair of Cube speakers from Behringer. They're called Baritone C50, I think.
Yeah.
And those are pretty nice because they kind of expose the mid-range a bit more than my other monitors, and they translate the music a bit differently, which is good. And then I have a M Audio MIDI controller and a small Core Nano Key too, which is kind of nice. And that's it. I used to have a Novation K-Station synthesizer, but I don't have it anymore because it's available in a VST.
Do you make music while you travel, while you're on tour?
Yeah, but I just sketch ideas, but I'm not making that much music on tour actually, because I'm working on my sets and doing edits and mashups and stuff like that when I'm on tour. But I do some production, and I'm actually using Studio One from Prisoners on my laptop because I don't want to bring my USB dongle from Cubase. I brought it once and I lost it, so that's not good. So yeah, that's my simple. Oh yeah, and I have a pair of headphones too that I check my mixes on. I have my DDF Phones Pioneer HD25.
Yep.
And then I have the Bayer Dynamic DT77 Pro.
The good
770 Pro.
Yeah, great headphones. So you've got an upcoming release, Desert Style. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
Is there anything else exciting that you're allowed to talk about that's coming in the near future?
Well, I'm working on a new vocal track. Will be on FSOE 2, but I had some problems with finding the right vocalist. So right now I'm working with a friend on it, but he's a bit busy, so we're I think finishing next month. The instrumental is pretty much done, but we're still working on the vocal. So that's the next thing. And I have a new single coming up next month, I think. I'm still waiting for all the details for that yet, but I will announce it soon on my social medias.
Awesome. Can't wait for that. Final question. It's a little bit of a weird one. If you were, let's say you're walking down the street in Sweden and aliens come along and they abduct you, but they say to you, here's a piece of paper and a pen. You can leave 3 pieces of advice to producers on there. What would be on that piece of paper?
Wow, that's a difficult one. I think I would write work hard as one. The other one is be original, be yourself. And the third is use reference tracks.
Love it.
So I think those 3 would be very useful.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that's crucial advice. Well, Bjorn, thanks heaps for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. And where can people find you online if they want to learn more about you?
I have my website, bjornakesson.com, and then Facebook, Bjorn Akesson Music, and then Twitter, Bjorn_Akesson.
Awesome.
That's where you can find all the info.